from about 4000 BC we were all farmers. Before that we were all hunter-gatherers. About 4000 BC we started to introduce crops which were really wheat and barley. And the crops now are probably, distant ancestors of the ones that were going in those days. All over the country it was the same kind of crops. People were living the same kind of lifestyle, farming, living in villages as they were here.
I think the first recorded grains that we find in Britain are emmer wheat and spelt. They're two of the earliest grains, but they can be traced right the way back to the east where they were first developed. But that grain was obviously traded over huge distances because they were farming the same grains throughout Europe. Cut using sickle blades made of flint, and there were two designs for that. The first would be something using the curve of a piece of antler or wood with a series of very small blades set in with pine resin glue, something like that, and that would be used as a reaping knife. Another design would be something resembling that with a serrated cutting edge, a single piece of flint that would be used for the same job. So they were actually cutting the crops with sickle blades made of flint.
We find that they stored their crops in small buildings next to the village. They built little rectangular buildings on stilts above ground, and they kept the crops in those boxes, keep them out of the way of damp and out of the way of vermin and so on. So they stored them quite close to their houses in the village, but not actually in the house itself.
They were making bread from the wheat and the other grains that they were producing by grinding down the seed husks, and then what they could do is just throw off the harder outer husks and then grind down the inner seed, if you like, to produce flour. And all they had to do then was add water and bake, and they had their bread.
Pot boilers are flints that they would have found in the fields around here, which would have been heated in the fire, and once they were really, really hot, they were placed into a pan of water to heat the water, and then that could have been used for cooking. And these pot boilers are still found. They're obviously very well heated, and you can find them around the fields. From the evidence we have, which is relatively small, there were obviously cooking pots where they would have actually cooked meat or vegetables. The meat would have been from animals that they could have killed, possibly deer at the time, where they would have had to have used implements, flint stone implements, to scrape the skins, to take the meat off, cut the meat up, and then it could have been put in the pot and stewed up with water and herbs that they would have gathered from around the place.
Herbs that they used as medicines that we still use, the most obvious one is foxglove, which is that one over there, and that produces digitalis, which is used as a heart medicine, and it is still used today. I have a friend who takes a little bit of foxglove effectively in a commercial pill. If you just drive around Wormingford, there's fields and farmers, there's people like me growing their own crops, and essentially that is exactly what was going on here 3,000, 2,200 years ago. I grow crops very much the way my nth generation grandparent would have done.